So good morning, students. So welcome back to the class of Global Positioning Systems, GPS. So before we proceed to the present class, let us have a quick revision of the things that we have learned in our previous classes. So we have started off with the GPS overview, system architecture, and we have seen that three different GNSS satellites, constellations. One is the GPS, second one is the GLONASS, and third one is the Galileo. And their associated orbits, their number of satellites, their angle of inclinations, their services offered, and some of the other errors that are associated with that. Also, we have learned in our previous classes. And we have also seen an overview of the basic navigation process. So that is using the trilateration technique. How do we find the distance of a user or the receiver when it is known from the three different satellites which are of known latitudes and longitudes? And finally, the applications of some of the applications of the GPS also concluded. Now, we'll go as per the syllabus content in the syllabus book. So what are the components of the GPS? So GPS system is broadly categorized into three components. Of course, we already knew this, but studying as per the syllabus. The first segment is the space segment. The second segment is the control segment, and the third segment is the user segment. So GPS has got three components, namely space segment, control segment, and user segment. The entire process of navigating or navigation is categorized into three segments, three different segments. That is space segment, control segment, and user segment to understand the actual procedure. So the first one is, this is the diagrammatic representation of the components of the GPS. So first one is a space segment in which the satellites are present. For the GPS, there are 24 satellites plus 4. And control segment is present on the Earth. Space segment is present in the space. Control segment and user segments are present on the ground or on the Earth surface. So this is a control segment which consists of master station, monitor stations, and ground antennas. And finally, the user segment. User segments may be some millions. Whoever uses the services of the GPS, all those users which are actually the GPS receivers are examples of the user segments. So this is an overview of the three segments of the GPS. Namely, space segment, it is the GPS constellations, control segment, which is present on the ground station, master station, monitoring stations, and ground antennas. And finally, the user segment, whoever uses the GPS services, navigation services, all are coming under the user segment. So this is actual pictorial view. So for our, as we have learned in our previous class, at least 4 satellites will be continuously sending signals to a user. So that's why in the space segment, 4 satellites are given, which are orbiting around the Earth. So this is a control segment, master control. This is very, very important. Of course, here itself, the actual calculation procedure, what we're going to learn in few minutes, is done in the master control station itself. And finally, the user segment. The user segment may be GPS may be present in the what you call ship, or in the aeroplane, or maybe in the car, or maybe in the hands of the human beings. That is mobile phones. So another picture, satellite 1 at a time 1 started. satellite 2 at a time 2 started, satellite 3 at a time 3 started, and satellite 4 at a time 4 started. That is the time of transmission. And all the signals which are sent by the 4 satellites will receive the master control station at 4 different times. So transmission time is noted by the atomic clock and the receiving time is noted by the atomic clock. So receiving time to the transmission time will give the time of travel, which will give us the distance of the user from the each satellite. And we'll use the trilateration technique to know the exact location of the user, that we'll learn in the near future. So coming to the first one, that is called as the space segment. So what is the space segment consisting of? The space segment is composed of the GPS satellites which are orbiting around the satellite. The GPS satellites is also called in some terminology as called as the space vehicles. So here onwards, you please note down, whenever I use GPS satellite means that is also called as a space vehicle, SV. We represent it as SV in the diagram. Some of the diagrams we represent it as with the SV. So it is originally called for 24 space vehicles which are in 6 circular orbital planes, each with 4 satellites. This we already learned in our very beginning class, second class I think. Now the 6 planes have approximately 55 degrees inclination and each plane is separated by that 60 degrees right ascension. We already know this. So each orbit with respect to the equator is inclined at 55 degrees. In between each orbit there is a 60 degrees right ascension. And the orbits are arranged so that at least 6 satellites are always within the line of sight from the almost everywhere on the Earth surface. So you take any location on the Earth surface, in the line of sight at least there are 6 satellites. At least there are 6 satellites. 4 is enough for us to know the position of it, but there are 6. Because if any one satellite fails, then the other's time of travel may be taken into consideration. So why 6 satellites means only 4 information from the 4 satellites is enough. The 2 are in additional to replace the failed satellite. And each space vehicle makes 2 complete orbits in each sidereal day. So that is we already know. For rotation of the one satellite around the Earth will take half sidereal day. So in one sidereal day it will make 2 rotations. In one sidereal day it will make 2 rotations. That is the point, orbital speeds. And till now, this subject textbook as per 2008, March 2008, there are 31 actively broadcasting satellites are present in the GPS constellation. Actually 24 and present are 31. That means 7 satellites are extra. Why these 7 satellites are extra? Because to replace any failed satellite. The additional satellites improve the precision of the GPS receiver calculations by providing the redundant measurements. Of course, about this GPS constellation we have been already learning, and most important here is the control segment. So what is the control segment? Control segment is the one which will control the process of the navigation procedure. Where it should be present? Most naturally, we expect that it should be present on the Earth surface. It should be present on the Earth surface. And that station is called as the master control station. So it was controlled by the US Army because the GPS system itself was designed for the US military purposes by the Department of Defense. And the master control station and 4 additional monitoring stations were set up for the monitoring the satellites. So in the GPS constellations, there are 24 satellites. To control them, 1 master control station. And for the monitoring purpose, there are 4 additional monitoring stations. So in the first image, you might be watching this. So monitor stations. How many monitor stations are present? 1, 2, 3, 4. These are placed in the different cities of the USA. These are placed in the different cities of the USA. So the control segment is subdivided into a master control station, an alternate master control station, and 4 dedicated ground antennas and 6 dedicated monitor stations. 6 dedicated monitor stations. The flight paths of the satellites are controlled by the US monitoring Air Force stations in the places Hawaii, Kwajalein, Ascension Island, Diego Garcia, Colorado Springs, like Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata. These are the city places. So where these 4 dedicated ground antennas are placed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 dedicated monitoring stations are present in Hawaii, Kwajalein, Ascension Island, Diego Garcia, and Colorado Springs. These are the 6 cities in which the 6 dedicated monitoring stations are placed as a part of the control segment. As a part of the control segment. Now, the monitoring stations are operating in different countries. They should be far apart. One is in England, second one is in Argentina, third one is in Ecuador, fourth is in Bahrain, fifth is in Australia, and sixth is in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is a part of USA, of course. So one they have kept in USA, and remaining 5 they have kept all over the globe, because the intention of the US Department of Defense is to monitor their satellites or to track the position of an object placed on the anywhere on the globe. So to monitor a user or a object which is placed anywhere on the monitor on the earth, there should be monitoring stations on different locations of the earth. So with the permission of their countries, these monitoring stations were placed. So in the August and September of 2005, 6 more monitoring stations of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGIA, were added to the grid. So there are actually 6 and 6 more are added. Now, so what is the addition of this? Because the visibility purpose or the coverage purpose. Now every satellite can be seen from at least 2 monitoring stations. So 6 are enough to cover 1 user, and like this 6 more are present. That means 2 monitoring stations. One from this grid, another from the other grid. Because there are so many errors which you are going to learn in the near future. There are so many errors present in the travel of the radio frequency signal from the satellite to the user. And satellite position itself is maybe an erroneous. The satellites are located in the 6 orbital planes. So their position itself may be erroneous. So for that purpose, we are tracking from the 2 monitoring stations. So what is the advantage of this? This will allow calculation more precise orbits and ephemeris data. So what is ephemeris data? Ephemeris data is nothing but the error due to the ionospheric propagation. About this we'll learn in detail in the unit called data errors. Data errors. So for the end user, a better position precision can be expected from this. So better position precision. There should not be any erroneous calculations. So when an object is located or when an object is navigated by the GPS, it should be not erroneous. There should not be any errors. It should be more precise. And for that purpose, we are monitoring from the 2 stations at a time from the 2 grids. Is this clear up to this? So there are basically 2 segments. One is the space segment, which all we learned till now about the GPS constellations, is nothing but the space segment. Second, it is the control segment. And third, it is the user segment. Please say yes or no. Hello? In the chat box, you can type at least. Hello guys, are you present in the class? Only one person responding. Please turn on your videos, all of you. Say yes or no. Whenever I'm asking a question, say yes or no at least. Okay? Right. Okay. So this is all about the space segment and control segment. And finally, we have the user segment. So user segment is nothing but the all the users, whoever uses the navigation services from the GPS. So this is composed of some hundreds of thousands of US and allied military users. So it is majorly for the, as it is said, for the military purposes of the Department of Defense of USA. So some hundreds of thousands of US and allied military users of the secure GPS position service. So this will use the secure GPS precision positioning services, which will use the anti-spoofing technique, and they themselves sometimes have introduced the selective availability error. So these all we already learned. And this is also later expanded its wings into the commercial purposes also, civil and commercial purposes also. And that will be in some tens of millions. That will be in some tens of millions. So user segment may be our handheld mobile phone, which will consist of a GPS tracker, or maybe a dedicated GPS receiver, which will be used by the military purpose people. And what this DPS receiver is consisting of majorly, it will consist of an antenna, which is tuned to the frequencies that are transmitted by the satellites, and a receiver processor and a highly stable clock. So what are the functions of the GPS receiver? The GPS receiver, GPS user segment function is to receive the signal from the satellite and to process it and to note down the time of arrival of the signal from the each satellite. So as the functions are mentioned, it needs a receiving antenna, it needs a processor, and it needs a highly stable clock. It needs a highly stable clock. So these are the parts of the user segment of the each GPS receiver. Okay. And how does this calculation will be continued? What is the process involved? As I said, the process involved is a triangulation technique. The process involved is a triangulation technique. And for
how
this,
GPS works. Trilateration explained.
Please listen to this video. It is consisting of around 5 minutes, and you will get more information from this before we proceed. Please listen to this carefully. The process is explained in an excellent way.
How GPS works. Trilateration explained. Have you ever wondered how does the global positioning system work? I guess you did if you're watching this video. GPS uses a method called trilateration. It seems to be widely confused with triangulation, but triangulation requires measuring angles, while trilateration is based upon measuring distances. I'll show you this using a simplified two-dimensional visualization. Let's say we have three transmitters, A, B, and C. They form a triangle. However, they will be able to locate an object not only inside of the triangle, but anywhere in their range. So let's start by measuring the distance to the satellite A. I'll illustrate the measured distance with a circle. I'm not going to show you the receiver yet, because it will be easier to understand how GPS can determine your position without seeing you. So here we are. We've detected that the distance from the receiver to the transmitter A is equal to the radius of this circle. This means that our GPS receiver is located somewhere on it, but we need more information to be sure exactly where. Right now, it can be almost anywhere. Let's now measure the distance to the transmitter B. This should vastly increase our positioning precision. Now, the circles intersect in 2 points. This means that our lost traveler can be in either of these points. We're still not sure where exactly, but the third satellite named C should provide us with an answer. We're measuring the distance to the GPS receiver and here we are. The 3 circles have only one common point. And if our detected distances are correct, this point of intersection has to be the location of our receiver. And it really is. Neat. But how does GPS actually measure distances? Let's see. GPS satellites constantly broadcast 2 pieces of information: their own location and their current clock time. Because the electromagnetic waves that are used to carry this information through the space travel at a speed of light, one can measure a distance using a stopwatch. Well, if it's quick enough to tap it twice in a millionth of a second with precision. Let's say that at this moment all devices, the satellites and the receiver, have synchronized clocks. I'll illustrate the time on a timeline. At the beginning of our timeline, every satellite sends out its own position and time. But before this information reaches the receiver, it's already outdated. I'll mark the arrival times with letters on the timeline. Now the receiver knows where and how much time away from it every satellite is to be found. Multiplying this by the speed of light easily gives us the distance instead of the time. Now, finding the common point of all 3 distance circles and taking into account the locations of all satellites will give us our own location. And this is how GPS is able to measure distance using a clock. Of course, in real world, this all happens in a 3-dimensional instead of a 2-dimensional space, so it's a bit more complicated, but the basic principles are the same. I hope you've learned something useful. Thanks for watching!
So is this clear? Any doubts in the trilateration technique? So in the trilateration technique, I'll summarize. So what are the information that a radio frequency signal transmitted by a satellite consists of? It consists of its own position and the clock, that is time information, time of transmission. So an RF signal will consist of 2 information measuring. One is the satellite's position, that is measured in terms of its longitudes and latitudes, as well as when the signal has transmitted from that satellite. When it is received by the receiver, when it is received by the user segment receiver, then the user segment receiver will send this information to a master control station, that is MSC. The master control station will take care of all the calculations because the user is not that much having enough calculating what you call ability. So master control station will know the time of transmission, will note down the time of arrival. So time of arrival minus time of transmission will give us the actual time of travel of the one radio frequency signal, and its frequency is also known, that is equal to the speed of the light. So this will be done with the three satellites, that is satellite A, satellite B, and satellite C, so that the average of these three will be taken. So that the average of these three will be taken, and exactly the position of a user is known in terms of its longitudes and latitudes. This is how the trilateration technique is helping us to note down the navigation procedure. Right? Is that clear? Any doubts? Say yes or no. Have you understood this trilateration technique? Response in the chat box, at least. Present in the class. Okay, if not, then we will move on to the that is the last topic, that is called as the Gagan. Gagan is by the Indian technique. Let me open the slide first. All right. So what is Gagan? That is, Gagan stands for Geo Augmented Geospatial Network. So this is then developed by the Airport Authority of India for their flight navigation purposes. So Gagan is developed by the Airport Authority of India for their flight navigation purposes initially. Of course, later it has also opened its wings in many things. So what it consists of is how the Gagan is implemented and what is the technology. Of course, the same GPS techniques that are developed by the US Department of Defense are used here, along with some augmentation techniques, that is improving or increasing the quality of the navigation purpose, that is satellite or space-based augmentation system or satellite-based augmentation system and ground-based augmentation system, that is GBAS. Demonstration system configuration of Gagan and some of the special projects under the Gagan. So the navigation experts from all over the world have been discussing for many years about the concept of navigation system. Okay, it is general. The satellite navigation and position system represent the most important technological breakthrough in civil aviation. So it is majorly implemented for the civil aviation and navigation purposes and surveillance purposes and for the air traffic management. Nowadays in the space there are many flights are traveling and the traffic is controlled by the use of this GPS only. So that is same GPS developed by the Department of Defense is used this. So Gagan system consists of a network of 15 Indian navigation reference earth stations. So please remember this. So it consists of INRES. So how many INRES? 15 Indian navigation reference earth stations. That is ground monitoring stations and spread over the country that are precisely surveyed to compare the position determined from the GPS satellite signals against the location of the receiver. So there are 15 for us. So Gagan signal is currently being broadcasted through two geostationary earth orbits satellites, that is GSAT 8 and GSAT 10, covering the whole Indian flight information region, FIR, flight information region and beyond. It is not only the flight information region, it is also covering some beyond commercial applications also, civil applications and commercial applications. And the geosatellite satellites are GSAT 8 and GSAT 10 for the broadcast purposes. And one of the essential component of Gagan project is the study of the ionospheric behavior over the Indian region. See, till now this is a new point which was not studied in the case of the GPS or Gagan or Galileo. Only, sorry, the GPS or Gagan, GPS or GLONASS or Galileo. But Gagan has introduced a new concept, that is the study of the ionospheric behavior. The study of the ionospheric behavior by this. So this has been specially taken up in the view of rather uncertain nature of the behavior of the ionosphere in the region. So this study will lead to the optimization of the algorithms for the ionospheric corrections in the region. So there is always a compromise. So how much error has occurred in the travel of the radio frequency signal through the ionosphere. So there is ephemeris data I said, you have been talking about. And how much error is there? Nobody knows. So how to know that? If we know exactly what are the characteristics of the ionosphere and what is the structure of the ionosphere and how much possibility of refraction or diffractions are there, if we know that, then we can able to exactly estimate how much error has occurred. And the Gagan project has concentrated much on this study of the ionosphere. And this will use the augmentation systems called as the WAS, that is wide area augmentation system. The final operational phase completion will be compatible with the other space-based augmentation system such as wide area augmentation system and the European Geostationary Navigation Overlay Service, IGNOS. So this is a European one. IGNOS is a European one and WAS is a American one, and another one is the multifunctional satellite augmentation system and will provide the seamless air navigation service across the regional boundaries. So Gagan is a mix of all the things, whatever the best things are there, that is one by the WAS, second one is by the IGNOS, and third one is the MSAS. So a mix of these three technologies will be used by the Gagan for its navigation purposes. So what is the satellite-based augmentation system, SBAS? So our IGNOS or WAS, whatever it is. So complement existing global navigation systems such as GNSS, and SBAS compensate for the certain disadvantages of the GNSS in terms of accuracy, in terms of integrity, and in terms of the continuity, and in terms of the availability. So existing GNSS has got some drawbacks or demerits in terms of accuracy, integrity, continuity, and availability. So these are overcome in the name of the SBAS. And GNSS errors are then transferred to a computing center which calculate the differential corrections and integrity messages which are then broadcasted over the continent using the geostationary satellites as an augmentation or overlay of the original GNSS message. SBAS messages are broadcast via geostationary satellites able to cover the vast areas. So remember here, in the GPS system, the satellites are non-geostationary. The satellites are non-geostationary. But whereas compared to the Gagan, which was developed by the Indian government, this is using SBAS technique, which is using the satellites which are geostationary. Because the advantage of the geostationary satellites is the observer or user or the object which are to be tracked will look stationary, with respect to the satellites. So what are the major space-based segmentation segments? Of course, just now we'll 3 geosatellites, very important, and 3 uplink stations, 2 control centers, and 15 reference stations, and the GPS constellation. So listen here, observe this slide, it is giving more information. So it is consisting of 3 geosatellites for providing the reference signals, and 3 uplink stations, that is by the control segment, and 2 control centers, and 15 reference stations. Just before we have seen the GPS system of America used the 6 reference stations placed in 6 cities of the America. But our Gagan, the Indian technology, is using the 15 reference stations which are located in the various parts of the Indian continent. And it is using basically the GPS constellation, that is 24 satellites or 31 satellites, whichever is provided by the US Department of Defense. The same satellites are taken, but the process of augmentation is different. That is, it using 15 reference stations and 2 control stations instead of a single control station. That is master control station. And 3 uplink stations and 3 geo satellites. So this will improve the quality, and it will exactly give the quantitative measures of the navigation process. So remember this question was asked in the last year. Explain about the Gagan architecture. So this is the current scenario across the globe, that is using VAS, IGNOS, Gagan, and MSAS by different continents or different countries of the world. VAS is by America, IGNOS is by Europe, Gagan is by India, and MSAS is by Australia, I think. Right. And how the Gagan is working? The Gagan consists of a network of 15 Indian navigation reference stations, INRES, they are called as the INRES, spread over the country, that are precisely surveyed to compare the position determined from the GPS satellite signals against the location of the receiver. So already the receiver's location is known, and this known location of the receiver is compared with that of the GPS calculated receiver position. So GPS will calculate a position for the user or the receiver, and this is compared with this. So a comparison will always give the better results to correct for any errors. Then the observed deltas, that is changes, are then be sent to the 2 Indian navigation master control stations. I said there are 2 master control stations where the computer processing will extrapolate the data to generate the correcting deltas for the GPS signals anywhere within the network. And these correcting changes will be relayed via 3 Indian navigation land uplink stations. Again, by 3 uplink stations are there. And geostationary satellites to civil aircraft, so more precise fixes of their position can be derived from GPS satellite signals. INRES sites and INMCCs are connected using the optical fiber cable data communication network as well as the VSAT link. So here this one. So control centers and reference stations. For them it is not wireless, it is a wired fiber optic communication. Cables are connecting this master control stations and the reference stations. Please remember this. For that, wireless communication is not required. Only the wired communication, which will use the fiber optic cables. And this is the system configuration. GSAT 8, GSAT 10, GSAT 15, that is 3 uplink systems I said. And GPS satellites, 4 satellites, And this is the user or the object which is to be tracked. Generally, we use that as a flight. And Indian reference station. So how many reference stations are there? 15 reference stations are there. And this is the master control station, Indian Master Control Center and Indian Land Uplink station. This is for the uplink purpose. So in the picture, there are only 2 references are given, but in exact calculation purpose, we will use the 15 reference stations. We'll use the 15 reference stations located in different parts of the country. So this is Gagan. This is IN, Indian Reference Stations, INRES station. It is Bangalore, original image. It will collect the measurement data and broadcast messages from all the GPS and geosatellites in view and forward to the INMCC, that is Indian National Master Control Station. This is a part of the control segment. We have studied 3 segments for the GPS. So altogether, 8 INRA stations are established in the India. And this is one which is located at the Bangalore city. And about the master control system, more information about the master control system. So an Indian Master Control Center is established in Kundalahalli, Bangalore, a place called Kundalahalli, Bangalore. The measurement data collected every second from each of the INRS receiver chains are transmitted in real time. They are sent in real time to the Master Control Station, that is INMCC, for correction and integrity processing and generation of the space-based augmentation system messages with the aid of the navigation software resident. So this is a navigation software resident which is present in the control session, and that software will be used for the correction purposes and for the integration purposes. And the INMCC, what are the parts of this? It will comprise of various subsystems like data communication subsystem, DCSS. You can write down these points, very, very important. Data communication subsystem, various subparts of the master control system. Correction and verification subsystem, CVS, operation and maintenance subsystem, OMSS, and service monitoring subsystem, SMS. So INMCC is consisting of data communication subsystem. It will take care of only the data communication from the reference sessions to the controls to the control session, from the control session to the uplink station. Only the process of the data communication process. And second one is correction and verification subsystem. Whether the data received is accurate or not, is it erroneous or not, and that will be taken care by the correction and verification subsystem. And fourth one is the operation and maintenance subsystem. The entire process, how it is operating and how it is to be maintained, that is by the OMSS. And finally, the service monitoring subsystem. So for the perfect working of these subparts, a service monitoring is to be provided. That is like our principals are. See, you can imagine our college scenario. Data communication subsystem is, let us say, EC department. Correction and verification subsystem is, let us say, the another department, and operation and maintenance subsystem is the principal sir, and service monitoring system is the management authority, that is our chairman sir. So chairman sir will provide the service monitor, will monitor the services. So to operate all these things, we need some energy, we need some components. So for us to teach the classes, we need the internet services, we need the classrooms, we need the boards, we need the chalk pieces. So all these are provided by the management. And whether we are operating perfectly or not will be monitored by the principal sir. And these two, I think DCSS and CVS can be treated like two different departments, 2 or 3 different departments of a college. So this is how the Gagan is working. And next one is INLUS, that is Indian Navigation Land Earth Uplink Session. So we said 3 uplink sessions, right? And one of them is the INLUS. It receives the correction messages from the INMCC, format those messages for GPS compatibility, and transmit them to the geo satellites for the broadcast to user platforms. So what INLUS will do, it will receive the correction messages from the master control session, that is Indian National Master Control Session. And these may not be compatible to the GPS. So they will convert it into the GPS compatible, then transmit to the geo satellites for the uplink purposes. And INDUS is collocated with the INMCC at Bangalore. This is co-located with the INMCC at Bangalore. And it also provides the geo satellites ranging information and corrections to the geo satellite clocks. And message formats and timing will be according to the functional and performance specifications, which are derived from the MOPS, that is Minimum Operation Performance Standard. This is a standard for the data that is collected. And these are the original images, INMCC CTF building, which is in Bangalore, and INLUS, it is 11-meter antenna, that is uplink, and Bangalore INRES facility. This is VSAT antenna, which is used for the uplink purposes. So errors, I'll take up at the unit 4, because this is again, it cannot be completed in 10 minutes of time, because we have only 5 minutes of time. So these are just for the namesake, ephemeris errors, ionospheric errors, tropospheric errors, and multipath errors. These are the 4 types of errors. We are going to learn about them in our unit 4 in detail. And what are the advantages of this? Please remember this. Gagan will enhance the reliability and reduce the delays to the aircraft. Gagan will reduce the workload of the flight crew and air traffic controllers. Flight crew means the personnel present in the aircraft. And it enhanced the meteorological information. That is, it has the capacity to study the ionosphere. And it also reduces the congestion. Of course, obviously, when traffic control is done appropriately, there is no question of the congestion. And it enhanced the safety, reduced the delays, and increased the airport and airspace capacity. When all these things are done perfectly, the airport and airspace capacity will be obviously improved, because more number of flights can be tracked perfectly. So this is about Gagan. So it was developed by the Airport Authority of India. That's why this emblem is there. Remember this, Airport Authority of India. It is located in our Hyderabad city also. So Gagan coverage is 80 degrees east, and geo satellites, GPS, INRES, INMCS, INLUS present in Bangalore. So this is all about the Gagan. That is GPS aided geo augmentation navigation. Gagan stands for GPS aided geo augmentation navigation. So it is taking the help of the GPS constellation only, but augmentation is different. Augmentation from the earth, that's why geo augmentation navigation system. That is Indian satellite based augmentation system. So this Gagan is an Indian satellite based augmentation system. So satellites are there existing before the invention of GPS, but we are now using the help of our satellites for the GPS navigation purposes. And these are the advantages. Very, very important this topic is. Any doubts in the Gagan? I think with this, we have almost completed the unit 1 all topics. I think in our next class, we may start our unit 2. Is this clear or any doubts? If you have no doubts, I'll wind up the class. If any doubts are there, please raise your hands. I'll be waiting. So GPS majorly works with the satellites and radio frequency signals. But remember, from a reference station to the master control station, or from master control station to a reference station, the communication is done via wire. That is, optical fiber cables are light. This is one important point to be noted. Don't get confused how the communication is taking place between the reference sessions to the control sessions. Any doubts? If you have no doubts, I will wind up the class. Yeah, sure, I will share. I will share entire 5 minutes. I'll share the 2 textbooks. Actually, my Google Drive is already filled with the data. It is not showing the space. I'll find some other way to share with you. Okay. Yes, guys, I'm winding up the class now. Okay.